that had to be referred to actually come up with something holistically about rivers. So, as we all know, for us, the Panchabhutas are not just some elements, but they are one of the outcomes of the Parabrahman himself. Because in the Upanishads, we do have these verses such as Tasmad Vai Tasmad Atmana Akashas Sambhutaha Akashad Vayu Vayo Ragne Ragne Rapah Adbhya Prithivya Prithivya Oshadibhya. So, in this way, everything is a manifestation of the Param Brahman himself. So, consciously or subconsciously, we do have this view upon nature to be sacred. So, coming to Nadi, the word we'll start with understanding Nadi with the word Nadi itself. So, Nadi is a Strilinga word that is formed from the root verb called Nada, Nada Dhatu. So, Nadati iti Nadi. So, the dhatu, the meaning of the root verb would be that which makes sound. So it is, that means so many a times the etymological meaning may fit to the meaning, or at times maybe something else. So in here we can relate the etymological meaning of making sound as the rivers, while they flow, they make some noise. But apart from this, there is a definition. Interestingly, there is a definition for Nadi, which is called as Ashta Sahasra Dhanur Anyuna Vyapta Toya Nadi. So what does that mean? So we do find this lakshanam or definition of Nadi that Dhanus Sahasran Yashtaucha Gatir Yasam Navidyate Nata Nadi Shabdavaha Garta Staff Parikirtitaha. So this is a very interesting way of putting. So that which is not having a length of 8,000 dhanus cannot be called as Nadi. So they should be called as Gartas. So by this, we are getting a definition of a Nadi and a definition of something called as a Garta. So what is a Nadi? Nadi is that water body which flows not less than 8,000 dhanus. Dhanus is a measurement that we find in the Shastras. So approximately one dhanus is 6 feet. So that water body which flows lesser than 6 feet cannot be called as a Nadi, but it should be called as a Garta, is what this verse actually states. So if we actually calculate Sahasran Yashtau, Dhanus Sahasran Yashtau, that means 8,000 Dhanus. That means 8,000 to 6 feet is approximately 48,000 feet. And approximately, if we convert it into kilometers, it will be around 14.6 kilometers. So a Nadi is essentially a water body which has flowing water not less than 14.5 kilometers. Whatever water body which flows lesser than this can be called as a Garta, and not lesser. So from 14.5 and above can be called as a Nadi. So this is a very interesting definition that we find. And what are the attributes of a Nadi? So Tajjala Guna, Swachhatvam, so it is very pure. Laghutvam, it is very light. Deepanatvam, it has a kind of a glow to itself. Pachanatvam, that means it aids in digestion. Ruchyatvam, it has good taste. Trishnapaharatvam, so it helps to quench our thirst. Pathyatvam, again, it helps in it is very what you call drinkable water, you can say. Madhuratvam, having sweetness to it. Isha Dushnatvancha, a little bit of mild heat. So it is not too cold, not too hot. Naturally, a Nadi, when it flows, it will be in a very mild temperature, which is not too hot, not too cold. We find the Nadi Sukta in Rigveda's 10th Mandala. In the 75th Sukta is called as the Nadi Sukta, where we find mainly the Sukta is more about the Sindhu Nadi, the Indus River. But we do find the Ganga, Yamuna, and etc. also in the Sukta. And interestingly, in the mantra, in the first mantra of the Sukta itself, we find Prasapta Sapta Tredha Tredhahi Chakramu. So these nadis are 7. That is the main seven. What you call the Sapta Sindhu is also another word we find in the Shastras. So Sapta Sindhu means there are 7 essential what you call the rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Indus, and so on and so forth. And they are said to be having 3 ways, that is Tredhahi Chakramuh. So they actually flow in 3 different places. What are those 3? In the Sayana Bhashya, Tredha, the word Tredha is explained Prithivyam Antarikshe Divichet Tredha Triprakaram Chakramuhu Pravahan. So the rivers, they flow on earth, Antarikshe in the space, and Divi in Swargaloka, Dyuloka. So in 3 places the nadis actually flow. So this is one way of understanding that whatever the rivers that we actually perceive through our sensory organs is just one form of that nadi. So that we will even explore, we can actually discover it more further. So here we need to understand that there is a sthula rupa and a sukshma rupa. So what is a sthula rupa? Sthula rupa is that form which can be perceived by our sensory organs, and sukshma rupa is that form which cannot be perceived by mere bhautika sensory organs, but you need a yoga shakti to actually perceive them. So in that way, if a nadi is flowing in the antariksha, definitely we being having a very what you call limited understanding through our what you call our sensory organs. So it is not that everyone can actually experience the sukshma form of that particular nadi which is flowing in antariksha or in the Diloka. So then we find the different types of rivers and their significance in a work called Rajanighantu. Sarva Guruvi Prangmukhi Vahini Syal Lagvi Paschad Vahini Nishchayena Deshe Deshe Tadgunasa Disheshan Naisha Dhatte Gauravan Laghavancha. So how do we actually classify rivers is by the direction that they flow. So all the rivers that flow eastward are considered to be heavy, and while those who flowing westward are considered to be light. And in different regions, each and every river exhibit different qualities distinctively, but they are neither always heavy or light inherently. So this is what it is said. So if we actually see Godavari Nadi has a different form. While you actually see, it is definitely many a times it is in brown in color or green in color in places, whereas Krishna and Tungabhadra, you find the water to be a bit crystal clear. So these are the inherent qualities of each and every nadi, and they have each and every nadi, depending upon it could be the regions that they flow or whatever reasons it may be, inherently they are unique from one another. Prayo mruduvaha guruvaha laghvyaha shighravah smritaha nadyah pashana sikata vahinyaha vimalodakaha. So generally rivers that flow slow are considered heavy. So prayaha mruduvaha. Mruduvaha means which flow slowly are considered to be guruvaha. That means they are considered to be heavy, while those that flow rapidly, shighravah laghvyaha smritaha. So that those rivers which flow rapidly are known to be light, and nadyaha pashana sikata vahinya. So there are 2 types of rivers that actually flow on stones, rocks, or on sand. Vimalodakaha. That means inherently the rivers have a very clear water in them. Himavat prabhava yascha jalamta swamrutopamam. And rivers that carry stone and sand, and another thing is Himavat Prabhavaha. So the rivers which actually originate from Himalayas or from the glaciers are said to be, the water is said to be Amrutopamam. That is, the water would be like Amruta or nectar. And then again we have Vindhyat Prachi Prach Yavachi Pratichi Yacha Udichi Syan Nadi Sa Kramena Vatarognyam Shleshma Pittartilopam, Pittodrekam, Pathyapakancha dhatte. So the rivers that flow from the Vindhya mountains towards the east, west, or north possess specific effects depending upon their direction. They improve vata related vatarogyam. That means they improve vata related ailments, and they even help us to tackle the disorders of kapha and pitta, reduce the aggravation of pitta, and aid in digestion and pathyapakancha datte. So they at the in the holistic view would be that they help in all the, I mean, in tackling the tridoshas. The river water would definitely help, is what the Rajanikuntu also says. तथा प्राच्यां गमाश्चान्याः पश्चिमानुगमास्तथा सैकता सपाषाणा द्विविधा चाम्बुवाहिनी एवं चतुर्विधा नद्यः वातपित्त कफात्मकाः. So at the end it is classified, the rivers can be classified into four. It is what we know based on the direction that they flow. That is, in the eastward direction some rivers flow, while others flow to the west direction with westward course. Rivers can be of two types again: those carry sand, those carry stones. So in this manner, the rivers which flow east, the rivers which flow west, the rivers which carry stones, the rivers which carry sand. So in this way, the rivers can be actually classified into four types, and all four types of rivers are said to be vata pitta kaphatmakaha. So they are said to be the form of vata pitta kaphas. That means they help us in maintaining the vata pitta kaphas. And then sada vahayastu anavadyam ushnam marut kaphanam shamanancha tasyaha neeram vasante himakrid visheshat nadi bhavam naiva himagamecha. So the water of rivers that constantly flow without any obstruction is warm, and it helps in tackling the disorders of vata, pitta, vata and kapha, in particularly during the spring season, vasanta rutu. So Neeram Vasante Hitakrit. So it is said that the water in the Vasanta Rutu is very good, very Hitakrit. So it is very helpful for us. And river that is it is pretty much good for us to not I mean, go near the river or have much relation with the river at the time of himagame, at the time of winter. So that is what Nadi bhavam naiva himagame cha. So it is better not to go into river often in winter, is what we get to know. And interestingly, not only in the encyclopedial works that they find about the rivers, even in the Ayurveda texts also, we do find the health effects of river water in Shushruta Samhita Sutrasthana also. Tatra Nadyah Paschabami Mukhaha Pathyaha Laghudakatvat. So rivers that flow westward are beneficial because they are Laghudakatvat, because they have light water. So it is easy to digest. However, Purvabhimukhastu na prashasyante gurudakatvat. So, however, the rivers that flow eastward are not considered ideal, as their water is heavy. And Dakshinabhimukhaha nati doshalaha sadharanatvat. So, in between, we may find it is not that all the rivers flow southwards, but many a times we find the route of the river may have some southward direction also. So in Sushruta Samhita, we find that Dakshinabhimukhaha nati doshalaha. So rivers that are flowing southward are not highly problematic, as they are moderate in nature. Sadharanatvat. Prayena nadyah marushu satiktaha lavananvitaha. So in general, the rivers that are in desert regions, they carry slightly salty and lavananvitaha. So they are satiktaha, and they have even a bit of astringent, tikta rasa also in them. Ishat kashaya madhura lagupaka balehitaha. They are mildly sweet, they are light to digest, and they are very much beneficial for strength. So we do find some say that there is inner flow of a river in the Thar also, and we do find water bodies that are flowing under the desert. So it is said that it is very much beneficial to the health. And again in Sutra Sthana only of the Charaka Samhita, we find Vasudha Kita Sarpaku Malasandushitodakaha Varsha Jalavaha Nadyaha Sarva Dosha Samiranaha. So rivers that carry rainwater. So when it extensively rains, so we have a flood of water. So rivers that carry rainwater means that at the time of flood, whatever water is there, and whose water are contaminated by earthworms, heat, sarpa, snakes, and rodents, sarpa akhu, and mala. Okay, and are these cause various disorders due to the imbalance of the sarva dosha samirana. So they have the imbalance. They create the imbalance of vata, pitta, and kapha, and it is said that it is better not to consume that kind of a water directly, but maybe we have to go through some purification process and then consume the water, is what even Charaka Samhita also has to say. And in Kalika Purana, we do find the form of the rivers to be two types. As I said, it has a Sthula Rupa and a Sukshma Rupa. Not only rivers, but even interestingly, mountains also have two forms, is what we understand. नद्यादीनां रूपद्वयं यथा नद्यश्च पर्वताः सर्वे द्विरूपाश्च स्वभावतः तोयं नदीनां रूपं तु शरीरम् अपरं तथा स्थावरं पर्वतानां तु रूपं कायस्तथा परः. So nadyah parvatascha sarve dvirupa swabhavata. So all the rivers and mountains inherently they have two forms. The water is one form of the rivers. Toyam nadinam rupantu. So water, that which we actually see, is just one form of the river, while the body is another. Shariram aparantatha. And in the same way, the sthavaram parvatanantu, the immobile form of the mountain is one, and their physical structure is the other. So that is something kayas tatha paraha. Shuktina mathakambunam tathaiva antargata tanuhu bahirasthe swarupantu sarvadaiva pravartate. It is similar to conch, I mean the shankha and oysters, where you have a shell, outer shell, and actually the creature, the jiva actually resides inside the shell or the conch. So their internal bodies are concealed. So the bodies, the internal bodies of either mountains or rivers are concealed by the the external form that we actually perceive, while their outer shell is always present and visible, like the oysters and conches. So we need to understand here that um, uh, the form of water of rivers which we are seeing is just one form, and there is something beyond perceivable in nature of a river, is what the Shastras say, and the Puranas say. And by this we can actually see why we consider naturally that rivers to be the form of devatas, or we find a form for everything in nature. एवं जलम स्थावरंच नदी पर्वतोजस्तथा अंतर्वसतिकायस्तु सततम नोपपद्यते. So similarly, rivers and mountains do have an external form in the form of water, and in the form of the whole structure of the mountain, while the body within, which is not immediately perceivable. So it is not perceivable for everyone. And interestingly, if we see in Ramayana, where while Sri Ramachandra, while he wants to actually cross the Sagara and go to Lanka, he asks Sagara to give way. When he's not reciprocating, he becomes angry, and then Sagara comes in the form of in the form of a person, and comes and says that I cannot do this, as it is against my nature. So I will help you in building a setu, or the bridge upon me, is what he says. So here, if you see, they have a kama rupa. So they can come in a form of actually a person also, which the form is not perceivable by everyone. आप्यायते स्थावरेण शरीरं पर्वतस्य तु तथा नदीनां कायस्तु तोयेनाप्या आप्यायते सदा. So the body of a mountain is nourished by the immovable form, and the body of rivers is consistently nourished by the form of water. So nadinam kamarupitvam parvatanam tathaiva cha jagat sthityai pura vishnu kalpayamasa yattatha. Why was this actually, why were mountains and rivers were actually created in this form? Is because jagat sthityai, the Vishnu, Mahavishnu actually created in order for the stability, because of the, for the sake of the stability of the world, he thoughtfully created these mountains and rivers in such a way that they have two forms, and rivers and mountains both have something called as a kama rupitvam, mutable forms. So they can come in the form of a human also, which we actually see in the itihasas many a times. And another thing that we get to know that which we actually relate. So while it is flooding, it is normally a common practice that we go and pray to the river to don't get anger upon us, and please save us, kind of a, this namaskara or this kind of a veneration is done normally. So we understand by this verse also, toya hanau nadi dukkham jayate satatam dvijaha Vishirane sthavire dukkham jayate kirikayakam. So whenever there is lack of water, the rivers experience sorrow. Similarly, when the immobile form of the mountain is destroyed, it results in grief for the mountain. So by this, we understand that they are, according to our worldview, the mountains or rivers are actually chetana padarthas. They are not considered to be a jada padartha. They are also in the form like we are a living creatures, or we are chetana padarthas. Similarly, even a river or a mountain is also considered to be a chetana padartha. This is something very beautiful that you that we can understand, and why actually, where from this worldview comes. This worldview comes from the Puranas, from the Shastras. And again, the nature of water is also explained in the Upanishads also. In the Chandogya Upanishads, sixth adhyaya, we find that the water is the cause for the sustenance of prana in our body. So, annamayam hi somyamanaha, apomayah pranaha, tejomayi vak is what we find. Apomayah pranaha. So, the prana, or if we have to actually sustain our life in this physical body, then we need to actually take water, because apomayah pranaha. So, we find in the Shashtadhyaya, आपः पीतः त्रेधा विधीयन्ते तासां यस्थविष्ठो धातुः तन्मूत्रं भवति यो मध्यमः तल्लोहितं यः अनिष्ठः सप्राणः. So whatever water that we actually drink, it has three forms. I mean, which is the external form, and which is the medium form, and which is a very sukshma form, which is not actually perceivable, but we can experience it. That is the external form, or the sthula rupa, sthula outcome of the water which we drink is nothing but the urine. So sthavishto dhatuhu tan mutram bhavati. Yaha madhyamaha tal lohitam. So the medium, the outcome of that water that which we drink, it actually turns into lohitam. That is blood. It helps in maybe generating blood. And yaha anishthaha sapranaha. Anishthaha means which is the sukshma form of the water which we drink. It actually converts into prana, and that is the fuel because of which we actually can actually sustain the jiva in this external body. So further in the same Chandogya Upanishad, we do find Shodashakala Somya Purushaha Panchadashahani Mashihi Kama Mapah Piba Apomayah Prano Napibato Vichetshyata iti. So there, for Shvetaketu, his guru actually gives one task of not eating any food for 40 days. And he says that in these 40 days, you refrain from eating food, solid food, but kama mapapiba. But you drink as much as water you can, because na pibato pranaha vichhetsyati. If you do not drink enough water, sufficient water, your prana cannot stay in this sthula deha, and hence you have to drink water as much as you can. So by this also we can understand that water is actually the cause for our prana sustenance in this external body. So these are some of the I would say from insights from the Vedic, not only Vedic, what I meant by Vedic is Shruti, Smriti, Purana, and Itihasas that we find wherever where we find if it is a river or if it is water. So this is what we actually can actually find. And coming to the part of why the nadis are considered to be feminine in nature, that is also very interesting. Even though I'm not able to retrieve a very good amount of what you call citations in this regard, but there is one understanding that Sagara is a masculine entity, and all the nadis are considered to be feminine entities. And the Sangama, or the union of these feminine and masculine entities, are very much important for us in our culture. And that is why, even though the concept of dams are dealt, the concept of dams are dealt in the Vedic, we can find citations of dams in Upanishads also with the word called Setu. So Setu is not only a bridge, but it can be even a dam. Shi Bandhane is the dhatu, the root word of the word Setu. So it can be even a check dam kind of a thing, which even will help us to cross the river also. So setu, the word setu actually means something, a construction which actually helps to cross from one point to another, and at the same time even hold water. So this is setu. We find the word setu in Upanishads. So despite having the concept of building dams, we do find that totally obstructing the flow of rivers into the ocean or the sea is not actually very much what you call, I would say, prescribed by the older generations, because the union of the feminine and the Nadi and the Sagara is very much essential, is what our ancestors have actually felt. So that is why, though they were dams, the concept of dams, but they were mainly like check dams, or you can only hold that much of water which you actually need, and not more than what you actually need. So what will happen if we actually obstruct the whole water flowing from the the rivers to the sea? Definitely now we do see the soil, what we call salt water intrusion, that happens into the groundwater water bodies in the coastal areas, and salination and all that stuff is happening nowadays. And there are many research and many other forms of management is being water management is being thought of, how to actually deal with the salt water intrusion issue. So but for us it was more like, you cannot actually uh, uh, take over or take the control of nature totally. You can use it as much as you can. That is why if you even see the Rajaraja Chola's Kallanai Dam, it is more about diverting as much as water you can by the Kallanai Dam. It is not about totally holding the water as much as you can. It is about using the water as much as you can for your benefit, but not holding. The concept of that dam is not about holding large amounts of water. So this is one insight that we actually get from the other practices. And coming to Shraddha ji, should I even cover about the Pitru, this thing?
Yes, we have time. So if you are comfortable, we can come.
Yeah. So coming to the Pitru Devatas and their importance in our tradition is that each and everyone is said to be born with three rinas: Devarina, Pitruna, and Rishiruna. Jayamano havai Brahmana, Tribhi Rine Rinavanjayate is what we understand. So, how do you get rid of your Pitru Rina is by actually having kids, is what the Shastras actually say. So, in order to have kids, it is essential that you have the Pitru Tripti. That means your ancestors are happy enough. And because of that, I mean, the Pitru Devatas, the Kula Devatas, and the Grama Devatas are the most essential deities of any family. So, Pitru Devatas are the cause for our existence. Kula Devatas are cause for the sustenance of our Vamsha, and Grama Devatas are cause for our geographical existence. So, hence, Ishta Devata actually comes after these three Devatas in the traditional perspective, if we can actually see. So, the importance was given to Pitru Devatas, Grama Devatas, and Kula Devatas, and then Ishta Devatas actually come. So, how do we actually venerate our Pitrus is by performing the Shraddha Kriyas, the annual Shraddha Kriya. And we have this auspicious Paksha called Pitru Paksha that is going to come in the Bhadrapada Masa of the Krishna Paksha. Bhadrapada Masa is called as Pitru Paksha. And this is very much essential for us to actually perform any Shraddha Kriya or at least a Tarpanam. So we have a concept of Tarpanam, that is giving water obligations or water what you call we can call it as through water, that we actually give them some uh, you know some this is said to be the food for them. So we have something called as a Deva Tarpana, Pitru Tarpana, Rishi Tarpana, and Brahma Tarpana. So Deva Tarpana, we do it. So in this hand, if you actually leave water from this is called as Deva Tarpana. And if you leave water from this side is called Pitru Tarpana. And if you leave water from this side is called Rishi Tarpana. And if you leave water from this side is called Brahma Tarpana. So these Tarpanas are said to be the food for Deva, Pitru, Rishi, and Brahma, is what the Sampradaya says. So in this way, the common practice is to actually perform Shraddha Kriyas in the Pitru Paksha. And interestingly, the annual Shraddha Kriya only has the father, grandfather, and great grandfather, or mother, grandmother, and great grandmother. But the Pitrupaksha Shraddha will have all the others. I mean, it could be your uncles, aunts, and your gurus, your well-wishers. You can do Shraddha, you can do Pinda Pradhanam and Tarpanam to whomever you actually wish to, whoever are not there in this Martyaloka, and whomever you actually venerate, you can actually give them that Tarpana and Shraddha, is what we understand. So I think whatever I wanted to express or explain, I have done. If there are any queries, I would wish to take some questions if there are any. Yadatra saushtavam kinchit tad gurorev me nahi, yadatra saushtavam kinchit tan mamayeva name guru. If there is any good in my presentation, that belongs to my gurus, and if there is any backlog or anything something short of, that is because of myself and not my gurus.